Okay. So I do feel that a couple of clarifications, some distinctions should be made. Some things that I did heavily hint at in the previous video, but sometimes it's good to be as clear as you can be in regards to what you believe and why you believe it, which isn't always the easiest thing to do, especially when, of course, when it comes to something so complex, so obviously multifaceted. It can be difficult to determine, what specifically you believe and why exactly you believe it. And that can be a very, very long and difficult process of attempting to sift through. But it's good. It's good to do that. Many people don't do that, like at all. And so far as they do think about things that they don't fully understand, they want to very quickly act, to pretend as though they do have it completely figured out entirely. And that's obviously one of the reasons why this place is so fucked. But of course, that claim too is very simplistic. But it's one of the reasons. Of course, people who carry themselves with just a level of arrogance and believing as though they have the full fucking blueprint without being able to question, well, maybe you don't. Yeah, it's not good. Anyways, so the claim in and of itself, at face value, the claim that it was, say, in the developed world, the stupid people are creating the most people. They're creating like the bulk of the people. So obviously, it's a very simplistic claim, and there's a lot to dissect there. Like, so what do you mean by stupid people? Like, what makes a person stupid? And just, an important one right off the bat, the fact that many people have children before the age of 28. Many people have children before the age of 24. And it's clear that this is not an age, say, 22 is not the ideal age to be making a decision as profound as that, as creating a human being. It's not but of course, biologically speaking, in many ways, it's a very good age in terms of like, optimal physical health of the newborn and their developmental, but as far as making that decision as to create a person, so clearly not an optimal age to be doing that. And so it's just the fact that so many young people are far more likely to create people and make that decision to create another human being with another human being and pick their partner and go along. Like, that's fucking nuts. Just that in of itself. So, of course, that's going to contribute to the fact that quote unquote stupid people are creating a large portion of the people. Not people who are innately, like, inherently stupid, like their brains are flawed because their genetics suck or something. Like, no, it's just they're at a point in their lives where they're fucking stupid. They don't have a lot of life experience. They haven't really thought too deeply about the consequences of this act and what it means to create a person, and all the ways in which this can go very, very wrong. And have you found someone that you actually believe will stick it out with you through thick or thin in taking care of this biological creation? Like, do you genuinely believe as though you've now found someone to do this with that will be as reliable as they can be in taking care of y'all's child? It's just, so that's a lot of it. Just the fact that you're more likely to have children when you're young, and when you're young, you're not exactly seeping with out of your pores with wisdom. That's not a good age in terms of making a decision as profound, as consequential as that decision is, so clearly is. And another, when you look at many people who create large portions of people, you have to consider external, environmental conditions and developmental conditions. And it's just, again, it should be painfully obvious the fact that many people who find themselves in this situation where they're having a child at the age of, say, 20, with someone that they really don't know all that well. They're not married. They're not really thinking all that far ahead in terms of consequences. It's clear that in many of these situations, you have someone that had to grow up far more quickly than they should have had to. You oftentimes have it where they don't have anyone in their lives that'll show them the ropes and remind them of why these acts are so profound and consequential and in determining the outcomes of their lives. And it's strange that there are many 13-year-olds that are far more mature than me in a very real sense, in the sense of having had endured, gone through experiences that I have no conception of, having to deal with amounts of trauma that I am completely far removed from, and I don't know what it is to endure that. And of course, things like that will play a role in determining the outcomes of people's lives. And many people who have a decent portion of children at a quite a young age with someone they don't really know all that well, with someone that they really shouldn't have had children with, in many of these cases, you will, if you look at their environmental conditions, they were less than optimal. They were very harsh in many cases. And of course, it should be clear that a large portion of who we are is who we are raised by and who we are gradually molded by, our peers, people around us, and what we are viewing and what we believe it means to possess value, to be a person, like a valuable person, what it means to live a good life. And all these things, the way in which you view these questions and the answers to these questions will be largely determined by who you're raised by and who you're gradually molded by. So it's important to acknowledge the fact that many of these situations where you have someone that has created a person quite early without really thinking too deeply about it. I mean, oftentimes you look at the causal nature of it, and it's clear that in many cases it looks to be the case that they were just kind of sort of fucked from the start. Like they didn't, like how were they supposed to turn out? And it's very easy to point towards the exceptions, the underdogs who are able to transcend their upbringings, but that is what they are, the exceptions. So, and there's clear value. I mean, there's clear value in preaching personal accountability and sovereignty and all that shit. It's clear that there's a lot of value in doing that, but it's also important to acknowledge that all the ways in which people are gradually molded by their environments, and to such a degree that, I mean, just the unfairness of it should be palpable. It should be obvious. It should be blatant. So just acknowledging how much of it has to do with external factors, environmental conditions. It's important to acknowledge that. Else you won't have a full picture. If you're just pointing towards genetics and you're saying, oh, well, these people are stupid because their parents were just innately stupid, who had they had stupid genetics, they passed on their stupidity, and of course that's very, very, very simplistic. It's not that black and white, and that should be clear.